Have you ever been fingered by a MMA fighter before? What would it take to
UFC fighters have been getting way too comfortable around Nina drama. From Arman Tsarukyan forgetting how to act every time she walks in the room, to Sean Strickland going on a full rant about her chest while her man holds the camera, to John Jones having to deny sleeping with her before the interview even started. And when the footage went viral, the death threats and accusations from fighters' wives came pouring in. Here's what really went down. Let's get into it. To understand how all this footage even exists, you got to rewind to who Nina Marie Daniela actually is. She started as a Playboy playmate in 2017 to 2018, which already had people looking at her sideways when she pivoted into MMA media. But here's what most folks don't realize. This woman isn't just holding a mic and looking pretty. She's trained with ranked fighters, taken leg kicks from Paulo Costa, sparred with former middleweight champions, and has genuine fight IQ that catches fighters off guard in interviews because they don't expect it from her. Her whole style is a cocktail of real combat sports knowledge, absurd humor, and the kind of boundary-pushing flirtation that makes you wonder if she's conducting an interview or running a sting operation. And everything the internet keeps screaming about? Public interview clips, social media posts, and edited compilations where fighters engage in flirty banter, make sexual jokes, or appear overly complimentary. All of it out in the open. All of it on her channel. The hustle is transparent, but that doesn't make it any less wild. Now let's talk about the first body on the list. Tom Aspinall, the heavyweight contender out of the UK, a man who could fold your skeleton like origami, sat down with Nina for what was supposed to be a casual, funny interview. Aspinall was answering fan questions, shooting the breeze. And then, out of nowhere, he decided to flip the script on her in a way that damn near broke the internet.
Have you ever been fingered by a MMA fighter before? What would it take to
Now you gotta understand something. Nina is a woman who has sparred with former middleweight champions, taken leg kicks from Paulo Costa, and trained with killers on a weekly basis. But in that moment, even she got caught slipping.
To me?
Yeah.
Like, are we talking about the same thing?
And just like that, the clip ripped through TikTok, Instagram, every MMA subreddit on the planet. But here's the thing people miss. This was from a public podcast-style chat, not leaked footage. It was performative and consensual for content. Aspinall wasn't making some behind-closed-doors play. He was doing what every fighter does when they sit down with Nina, matching her energy, going blow for blow and seeing who blinks first. But Aspinall wasn't the only one who let the mask slip. Enter Arman Tsarukyan, the Armenian savage. A man who was supposed to be focused on his path to lightweight gold, but who, every single time Nina showed up, seemed to forget what weight class he was in, let alone what planet he was on. During a billionaire lifestyle vlog, Tsarukyan, fresh off a private jet, couldn't help himself the moment he got in the car with Nina.
What's your perfume?
What is it?
What's your perfume?
Nina handled it like a pro, keeping it light, but Tsarukyan kept circling back like a shark that caught a whiff of blood in the water.
Delina?
Yeah.
Good. I approve it.
And it didn't stop there. In a separate interview, the topic of Nina's age came up, and Arman's reaction was everything the internet needed to run with this narrative.
No, really, how old are you?
I'm old.
You look like 26.
Nina told him the truth. She's 37. And what followed was the kind of reaction you'd expect from a man who just found out the woman he's been low-key gravitating toward all week was actually a decade older than him.
Like my sugar mom. You can be good sugar mom. 37.
The fans called it awkward flirting. The forums called it embarrassing. But Nina, she clarified her cameraman isn't her boyfriend and kept it pushing. Because that's what she does. She lets the fighters tell on themselves, and she just holds the microphone. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared the internet for what Sean Strickland had to say. If Tom Aspinall was subtle, if Arman Tsarukyan was coy, then Sean Strickland was a wrecking ball crashing through a china shop with absolutely zero regard for the merchandise or the people inside. Sean Strickland, the former UFC middleweight champion, a man who has openly said he doesn't drink because, and I quote from his own mouth during a Nina drama interview, "If I drink, I'd probably catch a case after this meeting," has been in more Nina drama content than arguably any other fighter alive. And every single time the man has been completely, irreversibly unfiltered. In one of their most infamous sit-downs, Strickland didn't even wait for a question. He went straight for it.
I have no shame. I'm doing an interview with Nina because she has 1.3 million followers on Instagram and her titties hang out.
And just in case you thought he was going to pull back and show some restraint, some etiquette, some class, he doubled down harder than a degenerate at a blackjack table.
She intentionally makes her titties hang out for me.
They
and
don't
her
hang
boyfriend is holding a camera while I'm trying not to look at her
They're not
titties.
hanging out.
Nina's response, cool, collected, professional. She simply said, "They're not hanging out, Sean." But the internet had already taken the clip and run it through every algorithm known to man. Now here's where the plot thickens, because even though Strickland spent the first half of every interview being an absolute menace, there were moments, real, genuine moments, where the man got surprisingly transparent about what he actually thought of Nina. During a later Valentine's Day themed segment, Strickland broke down his actual relationship with her in the most unhinged way possible.
Get to know Nina, and like, dude, she's like a little sister. I don't think Nina f***ed you guys.
That right there is the confession nobody expected. Beneath all that vulgarity and chaos, Strickland was essentially telling the world, this ain't what you think it is. He's openly said, once you get to know Nina, you don't want to fuck her, joking about their friendship being purely platonic. Both are in relationships. Both deny any romance. But the internet don't care about context. And that lack of context had real-world consequences. Because the thing about Nina Drama that nobody wants to talk about is this. The woman has received genuine, real-life death threats from MMA fans. Not internet trolling, not keyboard warrior nonsense, actual threats. She's mentioned training to fight due to threats and insults from fighters' wives over perceived flirting. The accusation? That she's out here seducing their husbands on camera while her man holds the lens. Nina finally addressed it head-on. In a now viral stream clip from January 2026, she went off. And when I say went off, I mean she detonated on her entire chat. She made it crystal clear. There's not a single fighter that's ever come out and said anything. It's all speculation from pieces of trash on the internet that are just extremely insecure and very weird. And she wasn't done. She told them straight up that they were projecting all your weird insecurities from maybe relationships you've had in your past onto me, and that she doesn't roll that way. The Etiquette Coach episode perfectly captured this dynamic. Nina hired an actual etiquette coach named Nicole to try and civilize Strickland before a fight week. What followed was 39 minutes of pure, unadulterated chaos. Nicole tried to teach Sean how to shake hands properly.
I like Nina, guys. Here's the thing about Nina. Most women, I just assume they're sucking somebody off. And I assume they only have this job because...
But then, and this is where it got interesting, Strickland pivoted. He said something that, buried beneath the profanity and the shock value, was actually kind of sincere.
that. But like, I will say, like, she's pretty knowledgeable. I like her personality. It's a solid... No, she's about a 6 no makeup.
6 no makeup, 9 personality. That's the Sean Strickland version of a love letter, and it's about as romantic as this story gets. The man can knock out ranked middleweights, but couldn't figure out how to give a woman a normal compliment to save his life. But the biggest bomb in this entire saga, that was still waiting to drop, and it had to do with the heavyweight GOAT himself. Of all the fighters who have stepped into Nina Drama's orbit, all the flirters, the jokers, the wild cards, there is one name that carries more weight, more baggage, and more controversy than any other human being in the history of mixed martial arts: John Bones Jones. Nina sat down with Jones ahead of UFC 309, and right out of the gate, she established something that had apparently been floating around the MMA underworld for weeks. Before the interview even properly began, she hit him with it point blank.
Second of all, can you tell people that I didn't sleep with you for an interview?
And Jones, a man who has seen everything this sport and life can throw at a person, responded with the kind of energy that only made the whole thing more suspect.
I'm not gonna lie.
The room erupted. The internet collapsed. Clip channels went into overdrive. Every MMA page on every platform had that clip circulating within hours. But here's the kicker. At the very end of that same interview, after one of the most emotionally raw conversations Nina has ever had with a fighter, she circled back and set the record straight one final time.
Also, I didn't sleep with John Jones for any interview, especially not this one.
That's the kind of statement you only have to make when the rumors have gotten so loud that they're drowning out everything else you've built. And Nina had built a lot. But the internet nearly tore it all down over one training video. When Armin Tsarukian pulled out of a scheduled fight, the MMA community went looking for someone to blame. They found a training clip from Nina's vlog, a standard wrestler's warm-up exercise, and decided that was the smoking gun, that Nina had somehow injured a professional fighter with a basic drill. The death threats came fast and heavy. Nina's phone lit up with messages from people who had convinced themselves she was responsible. But then journalist Ariel Helwani asked Armin directly about it, and the fighter himself shut it down completely.
No, that thing I'm doing like every day on for my warm up. So if I had a problem during training camp, how can I do this?
And Nina explained her side, the relief, the frustration, the absurdity of it all.
I got so many death threats. Just death threats from people thinking that it was because of me that Armin pulled out of the video for doing a standard wrestler's warm-up.
She told the world she even called the UFC to ask if she was at fault. They told her no.
Like, it got me to the point where I even called the UFC and was like, hey, was I a cause of that, and they said, no, Nina, it didn't happen that day.
This is the reality of what it costs to be Nina Drama. Not the flirting, not the viral clips, not the compilations titled UFC Fighters Flirting with Nina Drama for 6 minutes straight. The real cost is the hate, the relentless, daily, grinding hatred from people who have never met her and never will. She addressed it herself back in January 2024 on X. If you guys receive 10% of the hate and sexual harassment I get on a daily basis, I guarantee 99.9% of you wouldn't make it on the internet. And in her October 2024 thread defending her style, she owned it all. I might be cringe and annoying, and I don't shy away from using my assets for views. They're a great set, and I will use every tool at my disposal without actually desecrating myself for success in my career, but that doesn't make me an indecent human. At the end of the day, the leaked footage isn't what the clickbait promised. There's no back alley tape, no hidden camera scandal, no secret affair exposed under fluorescent lighting. What exists, what has always existed, is a woman who understood the game better than most. She knew that if you put a beautiful woman in a room full of fighters, the content would write itself. She knew that the banter, the chemistry, the tension, real or manufactured, would be irresistible to the algorithm. And she was right. The fighters tried to fuck with Nina Drama. Some tried harder than others, but in the end, she played every single one of them. And she did it with a smile, a microphone, and her cameraman standing right behind her.